Okay, good morning again, everyone. This is the second part of the Module 4 lecture video. In the previous video, I went over some of the basic or some of the Photoshop PDFs, information PDFs that I want you to read over at your own time. They give you some explanation of some of the tools and stuff. That you can read, like I said, at your own pace. So this video is going to be about the next assignment in Photoshop. As I work through this, I'm going to explain some of the tools, some of the steps that you're going to be using to create or complete this assignment. And again, as I had said in the previous video as well, as we work through the assignments, I'm going to introduce new concepts. I don't want to introduce too much at one time. I want you to get comfortable with one or two of the tools and some of the panels before I move on to the next assignment and give you more information about those other panels and those other tools. So for this video today, we are going to be concentrating on the brush tool and the eraser tool, as well as how to select colors and how to use the layers panel. Okay, so I'm going to introduce the layers panel and as well as the blending modes that are in the layers panel. And as we work through some of the other assignments, we're going to build on these skills, including the layers panel, the brushes, and the blending modes on the layers panel. Okay, so I'm here in Canvas. I have put the new button for the new module. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on that. And in the previous video, I did go over the Photoshop introduction. Sorry, this morning. And in that, on that page are some PDFs for you to read at your own time. They just have some information that comes directly from the Adobe website. And some of it is from older versions of Photoshop, I should say, but it's still relevant to what we're doing now with the newer versions. Okay. So, and I also have posted the next assignment. So it's the Colorize line art. Okay. And what you're going to be doing is, like I said, it's, they look like coloring book pages. They're similar to the images that you were tracing in Illustrator for the advanced pen tool. But these you are going to be painting with the paintbrush. Okay. So there is a table here with 12 different images that you're going to download and colorize using the paintbrush and using some of the blending modes in Photoshop. Okay, so just briefly tells you what Photoshop is for creating and enhancing photographs, illustrations, and 3D artwork. You can compose, edit, and manipulate images across multiple layers using masks, transparency, and color spaces. The goal of this assignment is to learn how to use the paintbrush, select a color, how to create a new layer, and how to change the blending mode of a layer. Okay, so those are the concepts and tools that we're going to be using in Photoshop this week. Using the provided images below, colorize the line art using the following steps. And here are the steps here. And I will be walking through all of those steps with you. You can reference back and forth to this page to refresh the instructions. I also have a PDF here that you can download to your computer as well and view this as you're working. Let's see. Okay, so it has the same instructions that you will see over in Canvas. and it has the tools that you're going to use and the layer panel, and then a start version and a finished version of one of the drawings that I've used in the past. Okay, so this PDF you can download and have it open as you're working, or you can just reference these steps here as well. Okay, so it's fairly simple, it's not very complex what we're going to be doing. And then once you're done with the two files, 2 images, painting them, you're going to upload them to Canvas. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and download one of the files, make sure it works. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and download it to my desktop, and I'm going to make a new folder. So this is Colorize. So however you want to, wherever you're saving your files, you know, save it into a folder, save it onto your desktop, wherever you're saving your files, just remember where you're saving them to. Okay, so I'll go ahead and save that file. And then I'm going to switch over to Photoshop. And I still have the document open from the previous video. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. So if you need to close a file up here in your tab, your file tab name here, yeah, there's a, oops. There is an X here in the corner. You go ahead and click on that and it will close your file. And because I didn't do anything to that document, it didn't ask me if I wanted to save the file. So nothing had been done to it. Okay. So then I'm going to go to open on my start screen, and I'm going to navigate to where I saved the file. So Colorize. And then I'm going to open the file. Okay. So this is what you're going to see when you open up the file. Let me reset this again here. Okay. So this is what you're going to see when you open up the file. For this particular one is the Toy Story one that I downloaded. You're going to see a black and white line drawing like you would see in a coloring book. Okay. So I'm going to just start painting in the areas here. You know, switching colors, changing the size of my brush. So I can increase and decrease the size of my brush to fill in the smaller areas and then the larger areas that I need to fill in. Okay. So going back to the instructions in Canvas. So let me do that. Okay. So once you open a line drawing, you're going to check the color mode of the image by going to Image Mode. So there's a menu in Photoshop that says Image, and then you're going to go to Mode. You're going to check to see if it's in grayscale or index. If it is in grayscale or index, you're going to convert it to RGB. If you don't do this step and you start painting, your image will, no matter what color you select in your color panel here, it will continue to paint in grayscale, shades of black and white. So the first thing you want to do is check on your document. So you're going to go to the image menu, mode, and if there is a check mark next to grayscale, you're going to scroll down on that menu, the pop down menu, and you're going to select RGB or hover over RGB. And then once you do that, you'll notice here in your file tab, it will say RGB. You can always check too first here. If this says grayscale, then you know you're going to have to change it. If it says RGB, you're good with the image to proceed. Okay, but if it says grayscale, so let me do that. Let me change this to grayscale. Okay, so right here, you have the file name and then it says gray. That's letting you know that the image is in black and white. So say I pick this blue over here and I go and get my paintbrush. So it's about halfway down in your toolbox. And I start painting. Well, it's only coming out gray. Okay. I can select, say, green, but it's still only coming out gray. That's because the color mode is set, excuse me, is set to grayscale. So I'm going to go up to the image menu, mode, and then I can see that it's set to grayscale. I'm going to move down to RGB. And then you can see right here that RGB is now the color mode in my file tab. And you can always go back up to the image menu, mode, and see that there is a check mark next to RGB. Okay, so that's the first step. Make sure that your image is in RGB. Okay, then the next step you're going to do is you're going to come over to your layers panel. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this out of here so you can see it a little bit better. Down at the bottom of your layers panel are some icons. There is a little plus sign towards the right hand side of it. If you hover over it, it tells you what the option is or what the tool is. When I hover over that one, it says create a new layer. So I'm going to click on that. It's going to create a new layer here in your layers panel. And you can see it says layer 1. And this is an important step because one, you're going to be able to paint on this document without losing your lines. So you want to be able to keep those black lines or the drawing lines when you're painting. And then this also allows you, so for example, if I just started painting on here, see, I'm losing one, I'm kind of doing it messy, but I'm just trying to show you that by me painting like this, I am losing the line underneath. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to change my blending mode, which is right here where it says normal. I'm going to change that to multiply. And you can see that the black line or the drawing line is now coming through on the original background image. Okay. So now I can see the line drawing and then I can see where I painted in the color. Obviously it's messy because I just wanted to show you that. But this is the good thing about having the blending modes, that you can change, allow it to show through the line drawing in the back. Okay. You could try to paint in there real easy and go through there, but if your hands is not steady enough like mine is, I have a hard time painting directly in the lines, even if I use a small brush. And I may get a little bit messy, more messy than I did with this. Okay. So you want to create a new layer so that you're not destroying the original background layer. If you don't like the color that you have painted like this, I don't like that because it's messy. I'm going to switch over to my eraser tool. So it's 2 tools or 3 tools down from the paintbrush. And the keyboard shortcut for the eraser tool is E. So if you press E on the keyboard, it will take you to the eraser. If you press B on the keyboard, it will switch you to the brush. Okay, so kind of get familiar with the keyboard shortcuts as well for the tools. That way you don't have to keep, going back and forth to your tool panel. Okay. So E on the keyboard or click on the eraser in your tool panel. And then you just come over here and start erasing. Okay. And you can see because I am on the layer 1 here that I am erasing just the green. I am not erasing the actual line drawing underneath. Okay. You can also, if you don't like what's going on that layer and you don't want to take the time to erase it, you can highlight the layer here in your layers panel, and you can click on the little trash can icon here next to at the far right, and it will delete that layer. It will give you a warning to make sure that you want to delete it. If you are sure that you want to delete it, go ahead and click yes. And then add your new layer back in, and then change your blending mode. Select the color over here in your color panel. Select your brush in your toolbox and then just start painting. Okay, so now at this point, you can see that this circle that I have here, see that faint circle, that round area, that is the size of my brush. Now, right now, that area is too big, or that size of that brush is too big. So if I go and can paint, you can see that the area that I'm trying to paint is rather small. The size of my brush is too big. Okay, so up here at the top of your interface for Photoshop, there is a control panel. Okay, so up here is a control panel. And the far left, you can see the little paintbrush icon. Oops, hold on, sorry. You can see the little paintbrush icon here, and then right next to it, you can see an area that says, in this case on my brush, it says 300, and it gives you a little thumbnail of the brush. If I click on that pop down menu there, next to the brush size and the thumbnail of the brush, you get this dialog box here. So there is a slider that you can adjust to get the size of the brush that you want. So the smaller the number, obviously the lower the smaller the brush size. So now if I move back over here into my window or my drawing, you can see that the brush size is smaller. That circle is smaller. So if I increase the size of brush, that circle gets larger. Okay, so that's one way to control the size of your brush. The other thing underneath there is the hardness. So the lower the hardness, the softer the edge of the brush. So it kind of looks like a kind of like a cloud, the edge of a cloud. Some clouds are kind of blurry at the ends. So you can see, excuse me, that the edge is kind of blurry or soft. If I want the edge of the brush to be more hard or precise, I should say precise, you can see that it's not fuzzy like this one is up here. Okay, so those are the two options in your brush panel, your brush options up here. You can change the size. So the larger the number, the larger the size of the brush. And then the hardness. So the softer the edge of the brush or the harder the edge of the brush is determined by the hardness level here as well. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, so then once you get the size of your brush determined, then you can just start painting in the areas. Okay. And then again, if you don't like the way it looks, switch over to your eraser and then erase the color. Okay. And you can see I'm not erasing the line drawing. I am just erasing the color that I had painted in. Okay. And then come over here and do the same thing here. To get rid of that. Okay. And the eraser tool is also controlled by a little, what do you call it? Dialog box as well, sorry. Where you can change the size of your eraser and then also the hardness of your eraser. So if you wanted a soft edge eraser or a hard edge eraser, depending on what you're erasing, and then you can increase the size of your brush as well. Okay. All right. So that's one way to change the brush size for either the brush or the eraser. The keyboard shortcut to increase or decrease the size of your brush is the bracket keys on your keyboard. So next to the P on your keyboard, you have two buttons or two keys, and those are the bracket keys. So the left bracket key decreases the size of your brush, and then the right bracket key increases the size of your brush. So you can see as I'm pressing the bracket keys, the size of the brush is changing. So you don't, excuse me, a frog in my throat this morning. You don't have to go up here to change the size of the brush. It does it in certain increments, usually 5 to 10 increments, depending on how big the brush ends up getting. But you can always go up here and adjust it exactly how big you want it. Okay. So if you kind of want it to fit in that circle there, kind of just increase it a little bit. And then when you paint, sorry, I'm still on the eraser. Let me switch over to the brush. And then use my bracket keys. Okay, so I'm roughly the size of that area. And then I just click the mouse a couple times and it kind of went outside the area what I painted. So I just switch over to my eraser and erase it. And then if I don't want the whole thing, I'm going to erase it. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close this and I'm going to walk through the same steps again that I just did to start this. Okay. So I'm going to open up the file. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. Okay. So I'm going to walk through the same steps again. So I opened up the file. And then the first thing I'm going to do is double check to make sure that the color mode of my image is an RGB. So that when I start painting, it paints in color, not if it's in grayscale, you will get shades of gray as opposed to shades of the color that you're wanting to select. Okay, so that's the first thing. You go to the image menu, mode, and you double check that there is a check mark next to RGB. If there is a check mark next to grayscale, you're going to scroll down on that pop down menu and you're going to go check RGB. Okay, you can also tell here in your file tab if it's RGB or CMYK or grayscale. So right here at the end. Okay, so check that first. If it says anything other than RGB, go up to your image menu, mode, and then scroll down to RGB, and then make sure that when you do, that it changes here as well as here. Okay. Then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to go to your layers panel. So let me pull this back out. You're going to go to your layers panel. So it should be over here in your panels on the right hand side. And I just pulled it out so that it is easier to see. Then I'm going to come down here to the bottom of my layers panel. I'm going to click on the little plus sign. So I add a blank layer. And again, think of the layers as transparent pieces of paper. The more layers you put on your document, the more pieces of paper you have in the file. Okay, and that allows you to overlap things. But in this case, it's going to allow me to paint on this line drawing without removing or hiding the actual line drawing itself. Okay, so I added a new layer. Then I'm going to come up here where my blending modes are. So right here where it says normal, you're going to click and hold on that, or click the mouse. You're going to get a pop down menu. You're going to scroll down to multiply. Oops, multiply, not color burn, multiply. Okay, and you're not going to see any change here on the document. It's not going to do anything at this point. And then once you start painting, you'll notice that it's working because you're going to be able to still see the line here. Okay, I'm going to select my paintbrush. So over here in the toolbox, I'm going to get my paintbrush, press B on the keyboard for the keyboard shortcut. And then I'm going to come over here to my color panel, and I'm going to select a color. Okay, so I want to paint the star in the background here yellow, a shade of yellow. Let's see. It's still kind of greenish. Okay, so about right there. Then I'm going to come over here. Let me zoom in. So Command or Control plus will zoom in. I want to do that. I want it still there. Okay, so it's a I want it to be a standalone one so I can still see my document here. Okay, so I have my brush, and then I'm just going to start painting. Okay. Now, if I want to make the size of my brush smaller, I can come up here to the brushes panel or the brush options, and I can select, click on the pop down menu, and I can drag the slider to get a different size brush. The hardness, remember, is how hard or soft the edge of the brush is. Okay. And then I can come over here and start painting. Okay. And again, you know, if your hand's not as steady like mine, you can use your eraser tool and come in there and erase what is outside of the lines. Okay. And you control the brush with your bracket keys as well, or up there in the control panel to make the brush size bigger or larger. Okay. And if you don't like that whole thing, that color, just erase it. and then go get another color if you like a different color. Switch back to your brush. And that's still kind of green. That's way too green. Okay. So just paint over the areas. And again, because we have changed the blending mode to multiply, the black line in the back is remaining. If I didn't have it changed to multiply, you can see the line has disappeared. Now you can leave that, you can leave it at normal and try to paint inside there as close as you want. But I like the freedom of having this option where I can see exactly where I'm painting. Okay, I apologize for that delay in the video. I had a phone call that I had to take. So let me go ahead and continue with this. So like I was saying, the good thing about the blending modes, changing the blending mode, is that you can still see the line drawing. And then when you go to erase, you know, you can still see that, and it's not erasing the line drawing. It is it's painting over, you know, you're able to paint within the lines and then still see that line drawing. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and erase this because I don't like the way that color looks. And then I'm just going to move over to a different part of the image now. So I'm going to just start coloring in the hat. So let's find a brown here. So you're going to use your color panel to change your colors, to select your colors. In your swatches panel, it will keep track of the colors that you have selected. So if you go back, or if you want to go to another area of your drawing and want to use one of the colors that you had already selected, it will be up here in this top row of your swatches. Okay. So you can toggle between your color and your swatches, and it will give you the, you know, you can see the swatches that you've used, and then you can pick a new color. And as you're picking a new color, it updates over here in your swatches. Okay, so toggle between the two of those. All right, so I'm going to pick a brown and make sure that I am with the brush and not the eraser. And then just paint in here the hat. Okay. And again, if you get outside of the line, grab your eraser and then just erase the parts that are outside of the line. Okay. So it's not erasing the background, it's keeping your line drawing. That's why we're using this blank layer. So that you can still see that line drawing behind there. Okay, and then for those of you that are better with painting than I am, I still have, after all these years, still have a difficult time with painting, even, you know, here where it seems pretty simple. You can do shading if you want to. So if you know some traditional art techniques with shading, you can come back in with a different color and paint over the area. So for example, on here, I can come in with a little bit lighter color and maybe a little bit smaller brush, use my bracket keys and kind of make it look like there's a highlight up here And again, I'm sorry, my hands aren't as steady as they used to be. And then you can also make highlights, and then you can make shadows if you need to in certain areas. So again, if you know some traditional art techniques, you can come in and do some shading, stuff like that. Okay, mine's not that great. Because I've never really been much of a traditional artist when it comes to stuff like this. Okay. So I'm just toggling back and forth between my brush and my eraser, and filling in those parts. As I'm going around here, okay? And then remember, your swatches keeps track of the colors that you have been using, so you can go back in and paint over areas if you need to with that same color. As well, okay? So as you can see, I'm a little messy when I'm painting here, but that's the good thing about having the eraser and then being able to, you know, have it on its own layer where you can erase it if you need to. You're not erasing that original drawing in the background. You're keeping that original drawing. Okay. Oops. So you just kind of toggle back and forth between your brush and your eraser. To fill in the areas. Okay, so you can be as detailed as you want. If you like I said, if you know more traditional art techniques when it comes to painting and stuff, shadows and that kind of thing, you can do that on this, or you can just do you know, regular colors. If you want reference to what the actual colors are, you can search on the internet, on Google or whatever, for the colors that maybe his shirt are, his pants are, and that kind of thing. If you want to be more true to the colors, or you can paint it whatever colors you want. There's no rule to it. As the only rule is following these steps that I've given you to paint the areas, and then go from there. Okay, so you have to complete 2 of these. Take your time working on them. You know, fill them in as much as you can. Some of them are a little bit more detailed than others. There's a couple images that are real detailed to fill in. But again, take your time working on these. You have till next Friday to work on them. And then next Friday, we're going to start the next assignment. I want to get the next assignment going before spring break starts. So you have something to work on over spring break. It's not required, but so that you can just continue, because as I said, we are a little behind in this class, but we will get caught up fairly quickly. Okay. All right. So if you have any questions about this, let me know. If I need to do another review, I'll probably do another review video halfway through the week, maybe on Wednesday. Just another quick review of the steps. But the steps are also here in Canvas, what you need to do, and then how to select a color, you know, either using your color panel here or your swatches, and the swatches are kept track here at the top. Okay, so you just select a color, and then you have your spectrum here of different colors. Okay, so again, any questions, let me know either through Canvas or through Gmail. And then I'm also going to add a discussion board here into Photoshop for any questions that anybody has. You can put them there, and then I will get back to you. Okay. So I hope you all have a good weekend, and I will again touch base with you on Monday to see where everybody is. And then on Wednesday, I'll probably do another update video on this assignment as well. Okay, so I will see you all soon. And like I said, have a good weekend. And this concludes this video.